be white in so many ways is to be raised to be functionally illiterate on the topic of race.
Hey, it's Robin DiAngelo. She's the one who made the term white fragility so famous. She even wrote an entire book about it and has based her entire career around it. I did a video on her a long time ago. Golly, it's so nice to see so many familiar faces lately, even if they are dour and sad faces. Anyway, what was Dr. DiAngelo saying? To be white is to be raised functionally illiterate on the topic of race. So, our speaker can assess the quality and content of someone's upbringing based solely on their skin color. Got it.
I am white.
So, this means that you are functionally illiterate on the topic of race, which means your entire career is based on a lie. Or did you not actually mean what you said 3 seconds ago?
And part of being white is that I was not raised to see myself in racial terms. I mean, I understood that somebody had race, but not really me.
So, you were not raised to dwell on the immutable fact of your skin color. How awful for you?
To be white is to see oneself outside of race, to see oneself as a unique, special individual, exempt from the forces of socialization.
Exempt from the forces of socialization. So, white people have neither difficulty or fear when socializing with other people. Socialization is an afterthought at best if you are white. No white person has ever been socially awkward or suffered social anxiety. Got it. Debunking myths? I love debunking myths! My Netflix myths video was loads of fun. I don't see color. So, colorblindness in the context of race. This is a myth. Well, I sure as hell hope not, and I would assume that most people would hope not as well.
I'll never forget a moment of standing beside a black man leading a workshop on race, and a white woman said to him, "I don't see color." He said, "Well, then how are you going to see racism?"
What? How does not using race as a factor in assessing a person thus make you unable to tell when something racist is taking place? Unless you're taking the phrase, "I don't see color," literally. But you're not actually doing that, are you?
Because I am black. I do think you know that, and I have a different experience than you do. And you're not going to be able to understand that, and you're not going to be able to support the parts of that experience that are really painful and problematic if you refuse to acknowledge my reality.
So, what this workshop leader was saying is that he wants people to see him not as a man, but as a black man. He wants people to look at him with a special consideration because of his skin color. He doesn't want it ignored. He doesn't want it to be irrelevant. He wants it to be front and center. And he advocates for everyone to see black people as possessing a certain experience, a certain reality, because they are black. So, to sum up, our speaker is promoting the idea that people need to be judged, their character, their quality of life, their reality on the basis of race. Our speaker is promoting racial discrimination. Got it.
I don't see color as really a way of saying I refuse to acknowledge your reality.
No. I don't see color is the ideal way in which people should interact with one another, taking each other on as individuals with individual merits and flaws, absent a racial consideration. To judge people on the content of their character, not on the color of their skin. That is the reality that our speaker is denying. I have black friends is a myth. So, people who say they have black friends do not actually have black friends. Got it. But, what were you saying earlier?
I'll never forget a moment of standing beside a black man leading a workshop on race. What's important about that narrative is it reveals what the person thinks racism is. So if the person is using proximity, I'll never forget a moment of standing beside a black man leading a workshop on race, fondness across race, as evidence of a lack of racism. In order for that to be good evidence, a racist must not be able to do that.
Well, okay. Why would a racist, an actual racist, say that they have friends from whatever race they are being accused of hating? I mean, if they were a racist, an actual racist, wouldn't they more fervently try to avoid the subjects of that hatred? But, that aside, why does anyone need to provide evidence that they are not a racist? I mean, the claim of having black friends is classically in response to an accusation of racism. Why does the accused need to prove a negative? And, by the way, how can they prove a negative when it comes to the invisible intangibilities of presumed thought crimes?
So that rests on an understanding that a racist cannot tolerate proximity to people of color. And I'm hoping that we can see that's pretty absurd because, trust me, even avowed racists can tolerate being around people of color, and often are.
So everyone is suspect. Having friends of different races, even say having a spouse of a different race, none of that might tend to indicate that someone isn't valuing people differently based on skin color. So, even someone close to a person of another race may indeed be a racist?
I'll never forget a moment of standing beside a black man leading a workshop on race.
Got it. Race has nothing to do with it. It's about class. Well, it would really depend on what context we're talking about in this case. I mean, without knowing what it is in that statement, I have no idea how to assess its mythical value.
You cannot talk about any other issue without talking about how race informs that issue.
I can't? I can't talk about any other issue without talking about race. Any issue. So, whether or not Netflix did the character of the Punisher justice in its TV series, I cannot talk about that issue without talking about how race informs that issue. Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense. So, please, do educate me.
And when someone says it's about class, that tends to function as a way to get race off the table.
What? No, wait. Just wait. You said any issue. Any. Not class issues or issues that might involve class. You said any issue. I just have no idea what's going on. Wait, that was it? That was all you were going to offer to debunk that myth? Okay, well, moving on, I guess. Focusing on race is what divides us. So, that notion is a myth? Making race really important rather than making it a functional irrelevancy will not divide us? It won't divide us by race? It won't encourage racism? Got it.
First of all, we're already divided by race.
So then, let's just give up. Is that what I am to understand?
And focusing on race is not what did it. I would say not focusing on race, refusing to grapple with how race shapes virtually everything is what keeps us divided. And that is a very white narrative.
Not making race a focus in how we relate to and treat one another is a white narrative.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Got it.
All of those narratives function to get race off the table, close the exploration, exempt the person from any further engagement, and protect the racial hierarchy and the white position with it, which is an unequal hierarchy.
Trying to do away with judgments on the basis of race only serves white supremacy. Got it.
The challenge I want to offer my fellow white people is changing the question from if to how. So dominant culture asks if I'm racist. And I want to change that question to how have I been shaped by the forces of racism?
So it's not a question of whether you are a racist. It's just a question of how much of who you are is a result of racism. Got it.
How is racism manifesting in my life? Because it circulates 24/7, 365. None of us can be and none of us were exempt from its forces.
So all of us are guilty. All of us are complicit all of the time. No matter who we are, no matter what we do, even if we're not conscious of it, even if we're not actively taking part in it, we are all stained equally. Always and forever. Got it.
And this is where individualism can come in. I have a particular story, but that story didn't exempt me. And so I can ask myself, how did all the things I see as unique about me set me up into the overall racist structure? Because it did.
Because it did. No ifs, ands, or buts. Everything about me, everything that makes me who I am versus who you are, all of it is shaped and guided by racism. So, how does our speaker know that anything that she has ever done, anything that she has ever been said to have achieved, any insight that she claims to have over the rest of us, how is any of it not also equally suspect? By her logic, she's either a racist or entirely a product of racism. And given the fact that
I am white.
shouldn't she be the last person that we are to take seriously when it comes to matters of race? Because, after all,
To be white in so many ways is to be raised to be functionally illiterate on the topic of race.
golly, I am mightily confused. It's almost as if preaching the gospel of endemic racism tends to paint one into a corner, belying everything you have to say with contradictions and self-inflicted impeachments of your own credibility. So, is it any wonder that people like Dr. Robin DiAngelo have made a career on such nonsense? Well, these days, it isn't. This is the world that we live in, where hate mongers are praised as enlightened, and those attempting to live in true harmony with one another are cursed as sinners. It is madness, and it is the inmates who are being allowed to run the asylum. As always, thank you for watching.